Greetings to you wherever you are. This is OPOKU EMMANUEL, and I welcome you to Breaking Free today. So I'm tackling masturbation part 2. In the part 1, I gave the background to the matter because it looks like many don't understand it. They don't know what it is. And I remember somewhere in level 200, one of my lecturers who actually did her master's and did her whole thesis on masturbation said every form of sex is masturbatory in nature. Well, I didn't understand her then, but by following this topic for the past 8 years after her statement, I've now gotten to understand that it looks like those in the church realm don't understand the topic. So in the earlier release, I told you about why it's technically difficult to say it's a sin because all sexual activities done by couples in the bedroom are masturbatory in nature. Now, one of my lecturers also said, we exercise our bodies every time. We run, we walk, we jog. Now, how do I exercise my penis? Now, that is what he said. And now I exercise to build muscles. I'm jogging, I'm running, but my penis also needs to be exercised. And how do I do it? Now, he says that's why he masturbates to strengthen the muscles of his penis. Now, I'm saying all this to let you know the various reasons why people do the things that they do and why they masturbate. And I also told you that if you are married and you have God-given privilege to have sex and you want to have sex with your wife and your erection is not strong enough for penetration, what do? Now you help yourself by fondling your genitals and by stroking it. And the science behind this is that the more you do it, the more blood flows to your penis and the more harder erection you get. Now, the touching of your penis to get harder is technically masturbation. And you are doing that to get stronger erection so you can have sex with your wife. All right, so this idea of it's a sin is demonic begins to look a bit dicey because God does not tell couples how they should have erection and how they should have sex. And women do it for their husbands many times. So what they do is sometimes people will also want to have sex 2, 3, or 4 rounds in a night or in a day. And men enter what we call a refractory period, where after man ejaculates, he is immediately unable to have erection again. And so since he's unable to have erection again, it takes time to have another erection. And it depends on every kind of man. The time can vary from 10 minutes to even an hour or even a day, well, depending on so many factors. So there are some who can ejaculate and in the next 15 minutes they are back on, they can have another round of sex. Some it will take 30 minutes or an hour. During those periods, women help their partners by performing masturbation on them. So by touching their penis or stroking it or whatever they do with it, just to help the man to get the erection again to sleep with them. So you see, in this scenario, you can't sit on your pulpit or in your room and say it's a sin because it's a sexual activity that involves couples and they are deciding on how best to have sex in their room. And so I'm saying these things to help the sin people to understand the matter. So after having understood this, then now we are going into the matter itself to find out what is wrong. Also, for those who say that when you masturbate, you are having sex with a demon, and which cannot scripturally be proven, because if masturbation is having sex with a demon, then it means when couples are also touching themselves with mutual masturbation, and or if a wife is helping the husband to get harder in the scenario I just gave, then it means that what they are doing is also having sex with demons, which doesn't make sense at all. So for those who demonize everything they speak without understanding, and maybe based on a vision a prophet claims to have seen or something, and even some even gives names of demons who are controlling master. I'm not saying that they are not demonic tones to it, but it only concerns the addictions and other weird things people do, which we will come to that. But I want to say that this whole idea of masturbation is a general sex activity involving couples, and that is one way we cannot say as a sin. So now let's come to the components here. If you are with your wife and you are touching yourselves and stimulating yourselves mutually, that is an activity you are doing with your wife, and there is absolutely nothing wrong scripturally or scientifically. Okay, but where does this sin element come in? If couples are doing it on themselves mutually, then no problem. So now when couples decide to do it alone, the man just gets to the bathroom or to the bedroom alone and stimulates himself to orgasm when the wife is not around, and the wife also does this, and then it's beginning to create problems for the marriage, because that means they will no longer crave for that mutual sex anymore, because everybody thinks I can satisfy myself on my own, and so I don't need you. All right, and so that defeats the purpose for sex, which should bind couples together. Now, these are the challenging issues that are coming, which we need to look at instead of just sitting down and concluding it's a sin or it's demonic. We have to dissect the matter properly, because even though couples are privileged to have sex in marriage, now if they are masturbating solo, and the husband does his own thing and the wife does his own thing, now the bottom line is there are no connections between the two sexually. And so this one is satisfied on his own, this one is satisfied on his own, and so we don't need each other sexually. So if I want to have sex with you and you're like, I'm tired, I don't want to do it, stay your place. Me, I'm also going to please myself and come. I don't need you anymore. Then we begin to see it's beginning to create problem. Because now this one wants it and this one says, I can't give it to you. This one wants it, so I can't give it to you. So everybody is finding ways of pleasuring themselves. And the Apostle Paul, teaching on sex, said a wife should not deny the husband sex, and the husband should not deny the wife sex, except the two of them agree to give themselves to prayer and fasting. And even immediately after the fast, he said, come back and do what you have been doing before Satan tempts you for your lack of self-control. And so that means that if masturbation is a good thing or is allowed, then Paul wouldn't have said they should come back for their lack of self-control. They would have been like, well, you can masturbate to ease the pressure. But he said they should come back and have mutual sex, not denying themselves, so that Satan doesn't tempt them. For what? Is it to fornicate or to pleasure themselves? Now, that's a multi-million question. Anybody with keen interest in masturbation should now look at and try to answer. Satan tempts them with what? Is it self-pleasure, like masturbation on their own, or sleeping with other people? These are possible answers to this question. All right, so now let's put the couples aside. Now, these are singles who also are not privileged to have a partner with whom they can enjoy sex. And remember, sexual drive starts from the teens. Now, many of the God's people we know today were very lucky. They married very young. Now, when I look at Bishop Dag, Bishop Oyedepo, Papa Duncan, Reverend Kenneth Hagin, 21, 20. So you can imagine they were having sex along as they built their ministry. As I discussed earlier, the church has taken a posture that is making marriage difficult, and also the economic situation in the country and the way social standards in marriage have risen now, you need certain amount of money if you really want to marry. And we thank God for the other benefit of coronavirus, that is limiting people to marry within their means. So because of that, if you haven't raised a certain amount of your money, getting married is something you are not even thinking about. And so that's why most single people feel like, well, I'm also growing and body is not firewood. So if I can't have sex now through marriage, then let me find a way to satisfy myself until the opportune time. All right. And so they don't have a partner. Now, if you have a partner and you are doing mutual masturbation, it's between the two of you and you are all enjoying it as part of your sexual activity. But now, here is the case, you don't have a partner. So, what do you do? And one component of masturbation is that you have to get a partner or you need to fantasize or lust. Because if you are not lusting after anybody, if you are not fantasizing, it will be almost impossible. The motivation will not be there. That sexual drive will not even come for masturbation. See, so how do you feel the balance? That means you have to now find a wife. And what wife do you get? So now you have to keep your imagination on a lady you so admire and bring that lady into your room through your thoughts and sleep with her in your mind. And that is where Jesus' stance come into the matter. Jesus said, anybody who looks at a woman lustfully has committed adultery with her in his heart. Now, this is where people also misinterpret what Jesus said. Now, Jesus didn't say you have committed adultery. The physical act of adultery has not been done. And Jesus never said you are charged with a sin, but he said you have already conceived this thing in your heart. So, in essence, what Jesus was saying is sin originates from the heart. And if you are sleeping with someone in your heart, then it means given the physical opportunity, you will do it. Pastor Ventura Bill says the difference between the one who has done it and the one who has done it, the one who has done it physically and the one who has done it in his heart is lack of opportunity. Meaning, if you're also giving the physical opportunity that this is the lady, you would have slept with her. So the difference between the two of you is lack of opportunity. So Jesus was not trying to accuse people, but he was trying to say you need to deal with the thoughts in your mind and in your heart. If you're able to deal with that, then this temptation to fornicate will not be there. Now, that's exactly what Jesus was saying. So now this is where the sin elements are coming in. See, are coming in because if you are not married, it means you don't have a legitimate sexual partner. And so if you are masturbating, there is no way you are sitting there like that and you feel like pleasuring yourself except you have a sexual thought running through your mind. And who are you going to think sexually about since you don't have a wife who is present for you to engage in this thing with? So it means you have to fantasize. Okay, so you need to find a wife, and I told you one way is to pull somebody into your imagination or to now consume porn or other erotic materials. So you set porn before you, and as you get excited, you also please yourself to orgasm. So in researching this matter, it looks like it's almost impossible to have this drive to masturbate without having these accompanying elements. Either you are having lustful thoughts about someone or you are setting porn before you. Now, if these two things are not there, that urge to masturbate will not be there. So you see, on the premise of this, then we are beginning to see what is wrong with it. Because before you are able to do it, you have to get porn, which is now highly addictive and is going to bind you. Or you have to be entertaining lustful thoughts over somebody who is not your partner. Perhaps the person is even married. And so that is when you are beginning to cross borders and operating in sin because you are lusting after somebody who is not your wife, either in your mind or through the porn industry. Please, are we beginning to appreciate the matter more deeply? So now we have uncovered this sin element that is coming in. And another difficulty with this matter also has to do with is it being highly addictive. Now, this is not for those who are single alone, but for couples who also practice this on their own. Why does it get highly addictive? Is it because it's demonic? Not necessarily. People think because it's highly addictive, so that you can get hooked to it so quickly, then it's because it's demonic, but not necessarily. It's because it's very easy to do it on yourself. Now, even if you are married, your partner will have to agree before you can sleep with her. But here is the case: anywhere, anytime you want to do it, you don't need any partner's consent. You can do it on yourself anytime. This lockdown, there are videos on social media where women are crying. Adam, Adam Unkwana, Abai, lockdown, Mama, na media ma bro, ma break, Montina Copegel, Adam Friend of Power Simisama, and women were complaining. Some people, well, I don't want to say some of the things they said, but women were complaining that the men have been on them since there is a lockdown. They are always on them. They are tired. But in masturbation, you are not going to have these excuses. And so you can do it on yourself as many times as you wish. And that is why people keep doing it and they are bound because it's easy and you don't need a partner. So worry and you feel now no baby cocky kama na fa na or wife see my brain now panic or the any back. Well anyway, but these are things they are real, so let me just say it as it is. And so no begging, no pleading, just be yourself and have fun. And so that is why people get so hooked to it easily because it can be done anywhere. Now you don't need a hotel room, you don't need a bedroom, see, and anywhere at all it can be done. And so that is when it now gets addictive. So one, you are lasting; two, and it's also getting you addicted; and three, it's also enlarging your desires and cravings. Is also enlarging your desires and cravings. And in one of my posts dealing with wild passions, I discuss in detail and from scripture how you can enlarge the passions that God gave you and have unsatisfiable drives. Okay, you can have feelings that cannot be satisfied because of the things you have exposed yourself to. And masturbation is one of the ways you can have sexual drives that are difficult to be satisfied. Okay. And so that also becomes another issue. Now, the Bible says in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 19, that having lost all sensitivity, they have given themselves over to sensuality so as to indulge in every kind of impurity with a continual lust for more. Okay, so you can be burning with lust for more things that you can't satisfy. So now let's come back to some of the things that people do, especially the women, because the men, they don't have a number of options apart from just stroking themselves and rubbing their genitals for pleasure with so many devices, which I'm not going to talk about. But for the woman, what makes it even serious are the kind of things they now have to get: sex toys, vibrators, phones, sticks, wood, plastic, cans. Now, these are things that they put condom around and be inserting in their genitals and pleasing themselves. Now, men have a timeline, and naturally, men are not able to last in sex for long because research has shown that on the average, men can last on sex for like 5 minutes, and for some who experience 7 to 10, and for those who are full of lust, who get the lacquer and other things and buy, sometimes they can go from 15 to 30. And for Other people over 1 hour, I don't know what they do to get that. But that is the general. So on the average, without drugs and other things, sexual intercourse may last for a few minutes and even sometimes a few seconds for some people. So if a lady will take a can or a wood or things like that and or buy vibrators or sex toys and be pleasuring herself, it means she has a lot of time, even up to 2 hours, to be inserting things in herself for pleasure. And there is no man who can stay on you for 2 hours. But because you are doing it on yourself with sex toys, then you can pleasure yourself for as long as you want. So now what is the problem here? It means that for pleasuring yourself that long, your brain is changing and your reward systems are changing. And that means that if you don't get that length of sexual intercourse, you will never be satisfied. And so you are opening your passions wide that no man can satisfy you, because men are not vibrators. Things they put under them that vibrates and they have a feeling that is out of the world, and there is no man who vibrates. So we see that this issue has been carefully engineered by those in the sex toy industry to enslave people with wild passions. And so if you're also single, you feel like, if I can enjoy myself that way, why do I even need to marry? Now, most of our celebrities, if you listen to them, that's what they tell you. I sleep with myself, so I don't need a guy. And of course, she has all the time to be putting things under her. And why should she marry? Why does he need a man? So now it's also blocking your desire for sex uh, with the opposite sex, because now you feel you can help yourself. You don't need a man. So all they need is find somebody to impregnate them. They need kids. That's all. They don't need a husband. I can please myself anytime I want. So they have different vibrators of different sizes. So people take wood and it will shock you. Sometimes even benkuteya yedeka benkueni, people don't mind taking it inside and inserting it in their private parts. Now the question is, which penis looks like that? Or which penis is harder like benkuta? So are we beginning to appreciate the challenges here? So now you are getting addicted to it, and you need a component of it, which is porn. Now is blocking your appetite for sex with the opposite gender, and is creating a whole lot of difficulty for you. So then it's addictive, and then it's also giving you a false impression about sex. And so that is why, for most people, it's difficult to start a normal relationship, because they have been pleasing themselves. And even they have been pleasing themselves in marriage, they are not able to enjoy sex mutually with their partners, because they have been doing it on themselves. So now you are lusting, you are addicted, you are bound to pornography, and also your sexual drives have been enlarged so much that it cannot be naturally satisfied. So there are so many people today, men cannot naturally satisfy them. So even after they sleep with their husbands, they have to use the sex toys to still fill up what they didn't get. So are you beginning to see how difficult this is getting and how problematic it can be? All right. So now I believe I've been able to expose in this part two now the problem